spoilers for the rest of the show. This is totally spoilers. Go, Johnny.
Well, I was just going to say the cult did interest me, so I think on a repeat viewing I may enjoy just their story a bit more. And there was some great moments with the cult, especially with each of their demises. You actually feel each of these people when they die.
They cycle, they say.
They cycle, yeah. And that's going back into the whole Steam. All the people who shine or have any kind of special powers, it's almost like there's X-Men out there because they each maybe have a slightly different power.
Yeah, it's not the same.
Yeah, but that is kind of considered a form of shining, or also this steam that they talk about. It's your steam that's inside of you, and it's released when you die. And so when these true not steam vampires, or whatever they are, die or cycle, it's a pretty cool effect, and you see it a number of times. It's always very convincing, and you feel the pain that they're going through in those scenes.
Yeah, man, totally. Like you said, it's very vampiric.
Very vampiric, yeah. Obviously, Jacob Tremblay's death is heart-wrenching to watch.
When I saw him and I was like, is that like Jacob Tremblay? I'm like, oh, I didn't know he was in this movie.
Yeah.
He's not really.
Yeah.
His guts are.
He has about as many lines as Edward Furlong got in Terminator.
But my God, how good is he, though? That scene would have been unsettling regardless, but boy, does he sell a scared out of his shit pants kid. Like, that cry, like, it's almost like the director actually had a knife up to his throat or something. Like, I mean, man, he was good.
They basically pick him up after his baseball game, take him out into a field, and murder him brutally.
Well, first they just, like, rip him apart with knives, like, in his arms and his legs, and then they start gutting him. It's fucking horrendous,
and it's not just, like, the sound effect. You get to see them putting the knives in him, and a lot
just
of blood
this sinister, when he's like, are you guys going to hurt me? And she just says yes.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, he's begging for his life.
See, and that's one of those moments where the true knot loses any kind of sympathy you have, because they're enjoying this. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of said that they've been around, some of them have been around for maybe thousands of years. So maybe they're just so desensitized, they just found joy out of it eventually because it's something that they have to do. You know what? This was going to be kind of a spoiler, so I waited, but I should have mentioned Cliff Curtis.
I wanted to mention.
Yeah, I should have mentioned Cliff Curtis as one of the characters I really liked. He's great as, like, Danny's sponsor / best friend, gets him up on his feet. He's just a really solid character, so you know something's going to happen to him eventually, and it does in this really gnarly way.
It's another one of those scenes that I felt was kind of the gut punch that the film was able to...
Yeah.
I wanted more from this film in a dramatic sense, but it has a couple moments. And Cliff Curtis, there's a scene with Cliff Curtis and a scene with Jacob Tremblay, I think are those gut punches.
Because and one of the more interesting True Knot characters, who I don't think they utilized much, because there's a lot of characters in the movie, is the one who is kind of like Kilgrave on Jessica Jones. You didn't watch that. He's a supervillain who can just tell you what to do and you have to do it. So she has this power, and we see her at the beginning, like, catching predators and screwing them over and stuff like that. But she just, in her dying moment, tells Cliff Curtis' character to kill himself, and he just blows his fucking head off. It was really shocking and a bummer, because you kind of love this character. He's doing anything for Danny. He's kind of Danny's, like, whole reason to, like, live in that second half of his life, pretty much. You know? That scene was pretty crazy, man. What did you think about the gunfight? Did you feel it was a little out of place, or because I thought it was intense? I was like, when did this movie turn into, like, Wind River all of a sudden?
No, I mean, they kind of set it up, so I knew some of that, once it starts happening, was expected. And I that was one of the standout scenes for me too. Especially, I love the way it kind of plays with our expectations. There's, if we're into spoilers, there's a reveal there that the Crow isn't there when we thought he was. That was a fun moment.
Yeah, all the mind tricks of that everyone's playing on everyone.
There's a lot of fun in that scene, I thought. That's the scene with Cliff Curtis, the scene with the person who can control minds, and also the scene where you really see Rebecca Ferguson's character and how she feels about the family, as they're all like her connection when she's not there, but they're being picked off one by one. And,
great scene
and how
for
it's
her.
Hitting her. So there's so much in that scene that I love. I mean, honestly, the three standout scenes of the movie. Well, that has the Cliff Curtis. So it's that scene and the Jacob Tremblay are my two biggest scenes in the movie. Everything else was kind of like blasé. I did like some of the visuals with some of the kind of dream sequences.
I was just going to say,
I said it was like Michael Gondry at a moment flying through the clouds.
It also reminded me of Big Lebowski, too, when he's having his little daydream or whatever. But no, I loved my other stand because I'm with you. Those are the two standouts, but I have a third, and that's the one you're talking about, where Rose the Hat is kind of, she uses her mind, but we visually get like a representation of her body sort of flying over the earth, trying to locate this Abra person who is like this beacon of The Shining because she's so powerful. And that whole scene in the bedroom where like their minds are filing cabinets or whatever, or file folders. And then when Abra gets Rose kind of stuck in there and she's like ripping the flesh off her hand. I fucking loved that scene. And I loved how Abra just kicks her out of her brain and she just goes flying out into space and then off I was like, oh, that was an intense scene for me for sure.
Yeah, that was a good scene. One of the set pieces that I thought actually worked. That's Flanagan doing what he wants to do. He's not being beholden to a Kubrick look, but still creating something very visually interesting.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm stupid for wanting a filmmaker to just rip off Kubrick for a sequel to his film.
It's lose-lose, man.
I needed more symmetry and more of that just Kubrick feel in this movie. And if you weren't going to give it to me in the first 2/3, if we're into spoilers, they go to the Overlook in the last 20-30 minutes of the movie for a tacked-on ending of just... because it's a place that has evil and spirits that maybe could fight against our baddies, the Rose the Hat
This, folks,
character.
is why we decided to do a spoiler discussion after the review, so we can talk about the Overlook and the much tacked-on third act. I was saying how I thought there was this lack of creativity, because it's literally a shot-for-shot greatest hits of The Shining. Like, he didn't even bother making different scenes, like do something different than they did the first time. And I just refuse to believe that Danny like just knows his way around the Overlook. He hadn't been there in 40 years and he was 5 years old the last time he was there, just kind of wandering the halls on a big wheel. And now he's like going down to the boiler room and he knows what to press and he's like, ooh, I'm back, wakey wakey. And it's just like, wait a second.
It wasn't even like looking at the boiler like, is it this button or that? It was boom, 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 what?
So much of it was like Danny's triumphant return to the hotel. It's like, well, no, he was a little tiny kid. I don't remember anything from when I was 5. Nothing. I don't remember anything from when I was 5 years old. Henry Thomas to come in and play not Jack Torrance,
which I did not
Jack
recognize.
Torrance. Yeah. Well, they only show him from that profile.
Yeah.
And he's a good actor, and he's in a lot of Flanagan things. He's been in all the Netflix Flanagan things. But it was a confusing scene for me because I'm like, well, okay, so what they're saying is the caretaker turns into Lloyd then? I thought the caretaker...
I know, it gets confusing.
Yeah, and they didn't... I totally get it, and I love it that they didn't put Jack Nicholson in this movie with some kind of fucking Grand Moff Tarkin bullshit. It would have fucking pulled me right out. You said it still kind of pulled you out because Jack is... Why couldn't they have got Christian Slater, man? Christian fucking Slater.
Yeah. Or from what I've seen, Jim Carrey with that deep fake.
Yeah, dude, Jim Carrey.
They needed that.
This ending of The Overlook may go on. I don't have any lists, but if I had a list of like maybe biggest disappointments, it wouldn't be Dr. Sleep as a movie. It would be that third act and how much I was looking forward to that. And it just let me down. It's not good. It's not, and it shows you why Kubrick is Kubrick or was Kubrick, because like that stuff, when we were watching that movie, I've seen that movie so many times and I still just stare the fuck at that movie. It's so perfect.
It's a work of art.
Yeah, and this movie had a really difficult job. It had a weird story to tell. It had to go off and meet new characters all over, like you said, all over like the United States, give their backstories, have relationships form, somehow try to progress the Shining themes and stuff like that. It had a lot to do. It really did. It had a lot to do. I just feel... I'm glad they tacked on an Overlook ending. They just did it bad. It could have been cool, but it was too much like, there's this place that I know. We might be able to defeat her if we go there. And even Abra's like, why?
The producer said, we need the Overlook as a selling feature to get people to come see this movie. So even though it's not in the book, let's find a way to work it in there. And they handed Stephen King bags of money, and he relented and said that's okay. But apparently, this movie made no money over the weekend, and so that choice may not have been needed. They probably could have stuck more true to the book. From what I'm understanding, the book deals more with just the ghosts of the Overlook being involved in the story, but not the Overlook itself.
Yeah.
But they're still haunting characters or tracking people down in different places in the country. Maybe there could have been a new way, because honestly, there was a scene early on, I think it may have been Danny's first scene when he's walking through his own hallways in Florida. I thought he was going to come around the corner and see the twins in his own hallway. That could have been fun to have these parallels in new locations.
Yeah,
Not back at the Overlook,
Well,
just
they
done
had,
again as a greatest hits.
Miss Cratchity or whatever her name is, Miss Dar or whatever, the lady in the bathtub.
Oh, yeah,
She
yeah.
has an actual name in the book.
Oh, okay.
Miss Crotchety Crotch or whatever. She keeps popping up, and that's cool. And I like how they recreated her quite well, actually.
But the dread isn't there the way it is in the original.
Couple
they like
scenes.
desensitized some of the stuff that works in The Shining in this film.
And I got to give a shout out to the woman, and I wish I would have looked up her name, but I'm lazy. The woman that played Shelley Duvall. Because that is not easy. She had the mannerisms, the body movements, the fucking voice.
They just need to hit her in the face with a mallet to make it work. But
God, she was so.
She's a little too pretty.
She's but
she's not Shelley Duvall.
No, but they did really do a good job of trying to get that grill and get those bug eyes.
And the wig,
she's a pretty.
The wig just looks like. Could they have maybe asked this actress to grow her hair? It's such a terrible look because it looks like such a wig.
I loved her so much.
It kind of took me out.
Danny! Yeah. Like, she did it all so... And the kid that played Danny was really good, too, because it looks like it's supposed to be a little bit of time.
Yeah.
So he's a tiny bit older. He's a better communicator.
But after watching the original Danny Torrance,
that
actor was so amazing. It's hard.
He did not know he was in a horror movie. Maybe that's why he was so good.
And then Scatman Crothers is recast as well.
As pretty much the only... Like, if it's not going to be Keith David, it's got to be that guy.
Well, I don't even know who that guy was. But,
I don't either, but he sure looks like him.
He did a good job. But the Jack Nicholson thing and the Wendy was a little... She did a great job, but it's just like Shelley Duvall is so specific with her oddity that it's hard to encapsulate that.
Well,
especially if you're not already kind of like
they kept the camera to her back and her side a lot. You didn't need it. It was more her voice performance that worked so well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It like sounded like
Danny.
Shelley. Danny.
Yeah.
How could you? So in the book, this does not happen apparently, but in the movie, Danny sacrifices himself and dies. I guess he doesn't die in the book.
Oh.
I don't really know why he had to die.
Because the Overlook's not even there, so who knows? Like, I don't even know what the ending really is. But.
Yeah, I don't really get. First of all, why didn't somebody burn the Overlook down a long time ago? You know, but
honestly, like.
If he knew it was evil, like, why didn't he just go there? And apparently, there's no fucking gate around it. You can just walk right.
Yeah,
the
we
fuck
were
in.
saying like, if we're to believe this, when he walks through it, everything is still in the exact same spot,
that was such
down
bullshit.
to like, a glass or whatever.
So no cops went in, no firemen went in.
We feel like we should see Dick Halloran's body laying on the floor still, like if the way they've presented this place.
Everything else. The fucking typewriter's there, the stack of paper. It's like you're going through a video game of a movie and you're watching familiar things.
Yeah.
Even the chair where he jumps out of the chair is knocked over. Mm-hmm. It's so on the nose with that stuff. It's like literally the second the movie ends, The Shining, no one ever steps foot in that place again. You almost, like you said, you almost want to see like a frozen skeleton of Jack Torrance standing out front of the place.
Do you want to build a snowman?
To be honest with you, at the end of the story of The Shining, in the real world, all that happened was one guy drove his snowcat up there and was killed by an axe, and another guy wandered into a maze and froze to death. So if the police and everyone shows up there a day from that, they're going to find a dead body and a guy frozen. And it's not like they would still keep this place running. And even if they're like, oh my gosh, too many people are going crazy here, we need to shut this down. They'd at least go up there and remove furniture, take down things, sell off things.
Well, no.
It wouldn't just be like, this place is too creepy, I'm never coming back.
Well, no, and that's the thing. That's not, if that's what happened, okay. But, you know, Wendy and Danny took the snowcat down and went straight to the police for sure. Hey, my husband went crazy, killed
probably dead in the snow, and
killed
there's a dead...
Chef Scatman.
Yeah, it wouldn't even be a shock. They'd go up there and be like,
no,
this is what you told us.
Fucking go up there and they'd investigate, and every single thing would be turned upside down in there, and maybe they would renovate. And it's like, it doesn't make any sense why they're like, oh, this thing happened. and then the hotel shut down, and they just let it rot. There's nothing around. There's no fucking barbed wire around it.
I feel like if we go into the fridge, there's still 18 New York strip steaks and still 12 racks of lamb. The exact same stuff.
If everything is so functional still in this hotel that you have to just go downstairs and turn the fucking breakers on, how come 900 homeless people aren't occupying the space? Because apparently anybody could just walk in and turn it on. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I know those are nitpick things, but that's the problem. That's why the third act of this movie is bad, because they didn't think about that stuff. Like, Danny's like, oh, it only takes me a day to drive there. Why didn't I do this fucking 30 years ago?
Yeah.
Just go and turn the fucking boiler on and burn the hotel down. Apparently, you can just walk in and turn anything on.
Why is it called Dr. Sleep? There's
one scene.
They establish it, but it's like, it's so inconsequential.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to the story at all.
I thought it felt more like interesting.
That whole orderly scene felt like it felt like amazing stories directed by Steven Spielberg in 1985.
Yeah.
This cat can sense. So the cat can shine apparently because he can tell when you're dying and you're about to die.
They actually say that about some animals in those retirement homes. Like,
but this cat literally opens doors to.
Yeah. And they would die within 5 minutes of him sitting on their bed.
I don't know if the title has more to do with something that happens in the book, but it seemed like it was just there's this part in the movie that doesn't really have anything to do with anything, except like that's part of Danny's like getting better process.
I felt like it was a la one of those last X-Men movies where they're like fighting within each other's minds and stuff like that, fighting in Professor X's mind or whatever. And those were some kind of cool visual scenes. But one trick I thought was going to be really fun in that moment, the Abra, the little girl, says to Mad Hatter, Rose the hat chick, you don't know where you're standing, as though it's a trick. Like, she doesn't know really that she's not just in the Overlook Hotel. I thought the trick was she's really in the maze and hadn't known that she's been wandering these hallways but really getting herself lost in the maze, which would have been a fun little parallel to the original and a fun little moment, even though kind of obvious, I thought. But instead they go lazy. You're really in someone else's mind, not in my mind, but someone else's mind.
Yeah, and then they go the super lazy route because they do have to show the maze, and that's easy just to turn those lights back on. Apparently all those bulbs still work.
Yeah.
But it's just so familiar, like. She's following the footsteps. There's one person chasing another person. It just happens to be a little girl and a woman instead of a little boy and a man.
Greatest hits, as you said.
Yeah, it's just like for some reason I thought I was gonna want to see that stuff, and then when I did, I'm like, but there's nothing different.
Well, and then they even try to bring back the the visual, the iconography of of Jack and the axe. The silhouette. I mean, it's such an iconic visual of Jack Nicholson with the axe heading out into the snow, heading over to the maze, and just the way that's shot, the way they frame his silhouette and the axe, the way he's holding it, the way his legs are hurt, so he's shuffling along. It just turns him into a monster in that moment. They do that with Ewan McGregor's character because he's possessed, and it's lazy.
It's lazy. And it looked dumb. Like I said after we saw it, it reminded me of the TV movie where the guy from Wings all of a sudden turns almost demon-faced because he's not good enough of an actor to convey the emotion through his facial expressions.
That, when you say it reminds you of like the TV movie, that's something that I think this movie did a lot to me. Was there are moments that feel cinematic and have some of the grandeur you want from something following in the heels of Stanley Kubrick or that's supposed to be brought to the big screen. But some of this movie for 2.5 hours felt like I was watching TV. It felt like it was working on too small of a scale. And even when we get to the grandeur of the Overlook at the end, it feels smaller than the way it felt with Kubrick.
Oh, the hotel itself felt smaller.
Yeah, it just felt almost on a TV scale instead of a movie scale to some degree, and that was a real letdown.
Yeah, and the most obvious part of the Overlook, the thing where I was like, I no longer am enjoying this whole trip back to Overlook, was literally when Rebecca Ferguson's The Hat, not to be confused with the burger place or the pastrami place. She's
I'd
walking.
Like to get into her pastrami.
She's just walking the hallways, and then she goes, what's down this hallway? And then we get our elevator of blood, and she's like, cool. And then she just walks away. It's like, so that's what, it's almost like this is an attraction at Universal Studios, and we can walk through the Overlook Hotel, and in this room, you can see the lady in the bathtub. And over here, turn down this hallway, you can see the elevator of blood.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And so we were saying, wouldn't it have been fun if change those expectations. Look down at the elevators, and instead of seeing the blood, see the twins, you know? Instead of, when you look down the hallway that was supposed to be the twins, have the doors fly open with blood come out of those. I don't know.
why?
Do something different.
Why did Rebecca Ferguson need to see the blood in the hotel? Like, she did her job as an actress. She gave kind of like what the hat would do. She's like, well, that's kind of cool because it's like evil.
Yeah,
but
I thought you made a good point that I saw it as a kind of a dismissive look, which seemed odd, but I think you're right. It's almost more of like, I like this place.
I said at the beginning of this review, they answer a question that I had from The Shining pretty early in the movie, and that was the question I've always had about the original Shining is like, this hotel's been around since like 1908 or something like that, and apparently these ghosts have been in there the whole time, but how come they don't haunt the guests? How come they're not haunting year-round? It looks like a fully functioning hotel. It only seems to happen once this family is the caretakers, and the movie explained it, and I thought it made perfect sense, and I guess that's what the book says too. Danny is like, he's like a 1,000,000-volt battery. As soon as he gets there, everything just wakes up. And I'm like, okay. But then when this movie comes, he literally puts his foot in the door, and they're like, oh, Danny, you're home. Like, it just immediately starts up. The second he walks in, he's like, wakey, wakey. Everything starts turning on.
Yeah.
Didn't it take like a month and a half or something like that for shit to start popping up? Yeah.
Originally, yeah.
It reminds me of that scene, what's that movie where The Burbs, where Tom Hanks like steps into the Klopex front yard and all the wind and the music starts hitting, and he puts
steps
his foot
back out
back.
and calms down.
I feel like, well, you're thinking, I feel like all of the spoiler discussion has been very on the negative side. That's because really the only stuff to spoil in this movie is the overlook stuff. I've talked about what I liked about it, and we did talk about like Cliff Curtis and things like that, because I gave it an overall teetering on positive review. But the spoiler stuff, the stuff we really wanted to talk about, is the stuff that irked the fuck out of me in this movie.
Just, it's so much more of a Stephen King movie with some oddities that you get from his stories, and not the element of the oddity that you can get from Stanley Kubrick is different than Stephen King. It's just two different feelings, and that must be why those two guys didn't agree on the original film, because they really do approach things in way different ways. It feels way more Stephen King to me than Kubrick.
Overall, strong performances make it kind of elevated a little bit, and now I'm rambling, so I'm done!
Overall, if you're looking for a true great sequel to
Watch Beverly Hills
The
Cop 2.
Shining, you can overlook this movie and just go check out 10 minutes of Ready Player One. That was a better trip back to the Overlook.
Why did we not bring that up? That's the best thing. That's what you do. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
That's what you
I mean, the only
fucking
thing
do.
missing in that was Jack. Like, they couldn't put Jack in it. This story is a different story. It doesn't take place in an isolated hotel. So you don't have that feeling. But that's an important aspect of the original film that is
the
missing.
immersiveness.
The dread,
You're
the
completely
immersiveness.
immersed in it, and that's what Ready Player One did. It almost put you in the fucking thing.
Yeah.
But that was the point.
Yeah.
John has a great idea. Watch Dr. Sleep until he goes, you know what? There's this place when I was a kid. It's got lots of crazy shit. We need to go there. Maybe we can defeat her. And then put in Ready Player One.
Yeah.
All right, that was our spoiler discussion. Hope you guys liked it. Still go see the movie. Think for yourself. Don't listen to us. What do we know?
Yeah.
If you like this, please click like and subscribe to Cinema Gulp today. Leave some comments in the comment section below. Tell your friends. John, where can they find us?
Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Look for us under Cinema Gulp.
Until next time, here's Johnny.
And here's Uncle Ben.
We drink your cinema.